Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Oak Park and River Forest Fall Kickoff Meeting. How many of you here are not League members? I'd just like to see your hands. Wonderful. That is great. We welcome you. You can join us. My name is Pauline Cook, and along with my co-president, Sarah Shirk, we are delighted to see so many of you here tonight. Before we get to our main attraction, we would like to tell those of you who are not League members what we are about. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We do this through programs like this one tonight and by observing the taxing boards at our villages and reporting on their activity, as well as advocating for positions we have already taken. Join us and become a part of a network of women and men who care about the government that represents us and seeks to increase responsiveness and transparency. We are also starting a study about the role of the federal government in public education, and through this study, we plan to have an impact on the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which includes the No Child Left Behind Act. This act is generally viewed as a failure, which leads us to the question, is there a better way to improve the learning skills and knowledge of our students? Without a consensus on this issue, we as League members have our hands tied, and we have not been able to comment or encourage a change. Congress, while recognizing the flaws, has not moved to change, and that leaves the current law in place. League members do not want to be bystanders if this act stands or new proposals are worse. We start our consensus discussions on October 18th at Dole Library at 5 p.m. And next in our study, we invite you to join us for a panel discussion on October 27th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of Village Hall with 4 distinguished participants. I see one of them here tonight. In alphabetical order, they are Edward Condon, who's the superintendent of River Forest Elementary Schools, Dr. Tina Holloman, director of special education at the OPR-RF High School, State Senator Kimberly Lightford from the 4th District, and Dr. Albert Roberts, superintendent of Oak Park Elementary Schools. Our final consensus meeting will be on Saturday, November 5th at the main library. If you are passionate about our children's education, join us for discussion about Common Core standards, assessment and accountability, funding, and equity issues. It is absolutely fascinating. All this information will be on our website, as well as all the background material to study before these sessions. A flyer is available, and you could pick it up as you came in, that talks about one of the meetings, but it has our website, which will give you information about all of these meetings. And now Sarah Shirk will introduce our speaker.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. And our speaker is going to have to stand here just a little bit longer. I am just going to give a quick protocol on how the League is going to do the Q&A portion of this talk. We want to give Lieutenant Governor Sheila Simon time to give her remarks in full, and then we'll have time, plenty of time at the end for questions that you can address via the note cards that are at your seat, or if you need a note card, just raise your hand, and we've got League volunteers who'll make sure that your question gets compiled, and then we will have a moderated session at the end where we will cover as many of the questions as we can. I see a lot of experts in education out in this audience at all levels. I'm going to ask if you're a board member, I'd just like you to stand up so that everyone can see the board members from any of the school boards in our community. If you're here today, if you'd stand up, give a wave. All right, thank you for coming. We wanted to just highlight your attendance. We appreciate you being here as our local experts on education. And now I get to give you a bit of background on our speaker so we can get started here with Lieutenant Governor Sheila Simon's history. She has a lifetime and legacy of public service. She's a lawyer, teacher, and working mother. And as I look out in the audience, I see a lot of the same out there. Her record includes 4 years as a Jackson County prosecutor, a decade as Southern Illinois University law professor, and has participated in several state commissions. I'm just going to mention a couple. The Illinois Reform Commission, which focused on restoring ethics and trust in government, a big goal of the League as well. And currently, she will lead a state commission charged with cutting school district administration costs. This is a fairly new legislation. You may not have heard too much about the Classrooms First Commission, but I think we'll be hearing more about it. And she has also served as chair of the Joint Education Leadership Committee of the Illinois P21 Council. So I'm hoping all of those experiences will inform her talk today, entitled College Changes Everything. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Sheila Simon.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here. Let me try something. Can you hear me if I talk without the microphone? No. Okay. I'm going back here. All right. Although I wonder. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Woohoo. Okay, that's much better. I'm a recovering academic, right? I was just spending the last 10 years teaching at the law school at Southern Illinois University, and I love to walk around in front of the classroom and not have too much distance between folks that I want to communicate with. So thanks for working this out. And thanks for being here. I'm a member of the Jackson County, Illinois, and Jackson County's way down at the bottom of the state, League of Women Voters, and we fit into a much smaller room. So it's very nice to see all of you here. I'm really pleased to be here. Pleased to be here with Fran Sullivan, who is a buddy of mine for many, many years and was a driving buddy with my mom on the 1988 presidential campaign, and Mom and Fran logged a lot of miles in Iowa and have lots of stories, so we can't go into any of that. And I'm also pleased to be here with Susan Ranft, who I've known for even longer. Susan and I worked together. I was like the volunteer college intern at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee in Washington, D.C., and I just absolutely loved working there. I learned a lot about direct mail from Susan, who was the very cool boss of the office, and it's really fun to see her. We haven't seen each other for, we can't even count how long it's been. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Anyway, but it's really fun to be here. And I'll just talk briefly about what I'm up to, and then toss it open to any questions you have in the League format or whatever else works. I have been working on a lot of education issues. During the course of the campaign, Governor Quinn said he'd like me to be his education point person, which is a really big topic. So I said, yeah, I like that. And as a former teacher, I'm married to a teacher. My husband teaches at our community college. Our two daughters have gone to public school from kindergarten through. One of them is now in college. And it's easy for me to be an advocate for public education in the state of Illinois. I enjoy it very much. So been talking a lot about education and having a whole lot of fun with that. Let's see. Oh, this is where I was going with that. One of the things we're working on is a goal that we've set as a state based on a goal that the president has advised the states to tackle, to have 60% of our working age population have a college credential by the year 2025. So that's a 4-year degree, an associate's degree, a certificate from a community college that makes someone more valuable in the workforce. And it's not impossible to achieve. It doesn't mean that we need to flood higher education. It means we need to do a better job with people who are already coming into our higher education system. So working with this, you mentioned the Joint Education Leadership Council, which is a really fun bunch of education leaders. We'd been talking about this goal of 2025, and I said, let's put a face on this. Who's going to be graduating from college with a 4-year degree in the year 2025? And if you line up all the years right and count with your fingers, it's the people who just started 3rd grade this year. So I've had some fun with George Reed of the Board of Higher Education and a few other folks who have come along with me, and we've gone to the first day of school with some third graders across the state. And they're a great bunch. They ask questions like, do you take a school bus to get to college? And do they have recess at college? So really important things that they need to know. But of course, they also want to know, what does the lieutenant governor do? And even for some league members, this is a hard question, right? But to the third graders, I say, it's kind of like being a substitute teacher. Okay, now we know what you're talking about. So my one constitutional duty is to be ready to be governor. And I regard that very seriously. I take advantage of every opportunity I have to get to know the folks who are involved in governing the state, so that if I had to, that I could step in. Of course, I certainly advise the governor to keep playing basketball, stay healthy, eat his oatmeal. But it does give me a tremendous opportunity, because I have been getting out there to know parts of our government, to then connect people who come to my office and say, hey, I have this question about, or I've got a great idea, who might deal with this? And to be able to know who to connect people with has been just a lot of fun. I very much enjoy that part of the job. I have to say, I really like the whole thing. If any of you are considering being lieutenant governor, think about it. It's a great, great, great opportunity. That's the one constitutional duty, and then I have several commissions that I chair. A military base retention committee to make sure that we get to keep our military bases as the federal government continues to shrink their commitment. Let's see, 3 river coordinating councils, which is this is again, a league group could really appreciate this, because I know we're basically all nerds at heart as league members. Rivers are often geopolitical borders, right? They separate 2 counties or 2 towns, and so often that boundary line is not tended to by anyone. We miss an opportunity for commerce. We miss an opportunity for making ourselves better environmental citizens of the state. So that's a fun thing to work on. I had the Governor's Rural Affairs Council, and I think I'm the first actual rural person to do that, so I'm highly qualified. But what I really am spending the most amount of time on is education, from preschool to graduate school, and really enjoying the process. I am visiting each one of Illinois' 48 community colleges, which is really fun. We visited 3 today. You can read about the schools, and we've been sending them questions. How are you working on a certain set of issues? But to be there and visit and see what people get passionate about has really been useful to me. I've very much enjoyed seeing how the community colleges match up students who are looking to improve their lot in life and local employers who are looking for skilled workers. So nice combination. Interesting to be able to focus on what we've got that's going well and how we can improve our community college system. Because we're ahead of many states in terms of our community college system, but we still have a lot of room for improvement. And then maybe even more controversial than that, I volunteered to chair the Classrooms First Commission, which the governor mentioned in his budget address in the spring that he wanted to focus on school consolidation. This caused the hairs on the back of lots of people's necks to go like this. And I thought, as a downstater, as someone who knows the importance of a school to a community, I'm maybe in a unique position to help guide this process. So I offered to chair that commission, and that's what I will be doing. We're going to have our first meeting before the end of the month. But I have requested each commission member to approach it not in terms of consolidation, but in terms of 2 goals: improving education and reducing administrative costs where that's possible. And I think if we focus on those goals and don't assume that consolidation is going to get us to those goals, then I think we have a chance of maybe doing something in the field of K through 12 education in a time where we have limited budgets and a need to get the most out of every one of those educational dollars. So I don't think we're going to go into it assuming consolidation is the answer. It may be an answer for some places, and of course that's something that local voters get to decide on. But I think we also want to look at other ways to cooperate between districts that might not be consolidation but might lead to efficiency. For example, if two districts can buy textbooks together or buy insurance for their employees together, this wouldn't be consolidation. It wouldn't take anything away from local control, but might save both districts some money. And I think that's a good opportunity to see if we can take advantage of. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and just really enjoying the whole process. And I commend the League for tackling the idea of the federal role in education, because it's really a great big question, and it really takes a group like the League to commit to studying that and coming up with some good answers. So thank you for what you do. And with that, let me turn it over to questions that you have.
So this first question concerns brick and mortar schools versus online schools. The question is, how can we discern the differences between traditional brick and mortar schools and online schools? Are they accredited differently? Is there a loss sending student loan money to online schools?
Okay, interesting question. And there are lots of differences. But I think we're moving into an age where those differences are maybe going to blend, and we're going to come to expect as a standard some combination of in-person and online experience in education, particularly higher education. I think students now more often are expecting that coming in. They're expecting that even in an in-person class, there's going to be some way to turn in your papers or participate in a discussion in an online format. So while we currently talk about classes being in-person or online or hybrid, I think pretty soon we won't even use the label hybrid. That'll just be a class, right? That we will just expect that that's a standard format. There are questions about some institutions of higher learning, and they can be either online or in person, and about what kind of value they offer. And Senator Dick Durbin has been a very good advocate on making sure that, sort of from the consumer perspective, that students aren't being ripped off by places that offer or promise something that they can't deliver in terms of a certificate or in terms of vocational training. So there are some differences. I think people need to be watchful no matter whether it's in person or online. And knowing a little bit about the institution and what its motivations are, what its mission is, can help make that decision, I think.
All right, and here's one on No Child Left Behind, which is of interest for our federal study.
Yeah.
Do you have a reaction to the reports that apparently on Friday, No Child Left Behind, the No Child Left Behind law will be essentially rewritten? The Washington Post is reporting that Education Secretary Arne Duncan will grant states No Child Left Behind waivers if they take steps such as beefing up academic standards, increasing the number of charters, and linking teacher pay to performance. Any opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that is what's happening. I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction with No Child Left Behind, and the Secretary is setting up a waiver process so that there are ways that states can say, here's what we're doing, we're improving, here's our plan, and he's setting up a way so that some of the negative parts of No Child Left Behind can be left behind. As a former teacher, I appreciate that. You know, in the beginning of the semester, I used to teach writing to the first-year law students, which is an interesting challenge because most of them arrive believing that they know everything that they should need to know about writing, and I have to say, time out, we'll adjust and we'll shape your writing a little bit and make it better suited for a particular purpose. Thank you very much. Please speak louder. I will do that. Thank you. And in the beginning of the semester, I would make sure that I give some kind of assignment that I can then look at and use as a way to diagnose student writing problems, right? And so in the beginning of each semester, I would know which students have what kind of challenges. And the reason I do that is so that I can say to the students that have more challenges, let's start a program just for you. Can you stop by my office once a week? Can you make sure that you run every draft by me before you turn it in? Can you set yourself an earlier deadline and we review your drafts together? I don't identify people who are doing poorly and say, guess what? You're getting less attention in this class, right? And that's kind of what the No Child Left Behind approach is. If you're not doing well, you're going to get left out of some things. So I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the law, and the waiver process should hopefully allow us to target a little better, making sure that schools, that states are living up to what we want out of them without having these onerous penalties.
The next question, you mentioned the goal of having 60% of the Illinois workforce possess a college credential. What percentage of Illinois workforce currently possesses such a credential?
41, which puts us slightly ahead of most other states, but not by a lot. So it means a big expansion of who has that college credential, who gets that college credential. But as I mentioned earlier, not necessarily a big expansion of who's coming to college. There are several areas where we can do a better job. For example, around the state, just as a rough average, of people starting community college, about half of them need to have remedial math before they can take their first math course for credit. Half, right? So that means we're paying to have math taught in the K through 12 system, and then we're paying to have it taught again for a lot of folks in the community college system. And this is not a knock on the K through 12 system. This is more a description of the result when we have different governing bodies for different parts of our education in the state, which is what we do. We have a K through 12 governing structure, we have a community college governing structure, we have a four-year school governing structure, and it's the students who are the ones who travel from one system to the next and often find a gap. So for example, if you started community college this fall and you found out that you needed to take a remedial math course, you'd be in a remedial math course, you'd be taking that course and spending your savings on it, spending your student loan money or grants on it, and you'd be getting no credit for it. So college is now going to take a little bit longer, you're going to have a little bit more debt at the end, and you're probably going to be a little bit more discouraged from coming back next semester, right? If you start college and you're told first thing, guess what? You're in college, but not really. So we have some ways to improve our system. For example, just in the area of math, how many years of math are required in high school? Who knows the answer? Katie is on my staff. She cannot raise her hand. Stop that. There's 2s and 3s, and that's right. The answer is 3. The answer is not 4, right? So what do a lot of high school students do? 3 years of math and take a vacation, right, in your senior year. So how would all of us do in a math class after taking a year of vacation from math? Speaking as someone who's had a little bit more than a year of vacation from math, it would be a challenge, right? Think about helping your daughters with their homework. This is hard. So we have opportunities just by how we structure where we ask students to take math. Imagine if we said, yeah, you only have to take 3 years of math, but one of those years of math has to be in your last year of high school. We would probably see some improvement. We would probably see more students moving directly into credit math courses right away. So there are things that we can do to help those who are entering our colleges successfully leave with a degree or certificate that they were seeking.
Okay, next question. Can you be specific about how our community colleges compare with other states, and in what ways do they need to improve?
Okay, well, let me try and be specific. We have a good community college system, better than some other states. Our community college system, for example, covers all of our territory. If you live in the state of Illinois, you are living in a community college district, no matter where you are. Not every state can say this. Some states just have patchworks, and some places are not in a community college district. So we are ahead of the game that way. We have a fairly good system. There's still lots of room for improvement in terms of transferring credit from a community college to a four-year university. And they call it articulation in that end of things. And the system is pretty good, not 100% effective, and some students get frustrated by taking a course at a community college and then finding out if it's in their major, sometimes it's not going to transfer to their four-year school. And this, again, is something that's discouraging and tends to drive down that completion rate. But even said that, even with those gaps, we're ahead of some other states. And I know this from being at conferences where, you know, I have been traveling around the community colleges in Illinois and running into lots of people who say, wow, what can you do to help us with articulation of our credits? But when I meet up with people from other states, they say, wow, you guys are really doing great. How did you set up your articulation model? So that's a specific area where we're ahead.
Okay. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. There's a question about the Illinois DREAM Act. It begins, thanks to you and Governor Quinn for your leadership in enacting the Illinois DREAM Act, the first bill of its kind in the country. Could you give us an update on the appointment of the DREAM Commission members and your view on the importance of the DREAM Act?
Okay, thank you for that question. For those of you who don't know, it is probably a small percentage of a league audience, the Illinois DREAM Act shares a title with the National DREAM Act, which is an immigration bill. Obviously, immigration is controlled at the federal level, and our state legislature and governor can't change immigration laws. But there is one part of immigration that we can have an impact on, and that's students who are here legally or illegally. I imagine that we have a second grade teacher here. And what's your name again? Sonia. Sonia is here, and she's a second grade teacher. And let's say one of her students comes to the United States this year. And this is the first time this student has been to the United States. The student, obviously, as a second grader, didn't make the plan for the journey on her own. She was brought here by her parents. And in Sonia's class, the student is going to be told, study hard, learn well, and this is a great country, you'll make something of yourself. And the only problem is when she gets to go to college, even if she's the valedictorian, we're going to say, and you're not going to get any state or federal funding to go to college, despite the fact that you're a really bright person and you have lots of potential. What the DREAM Act did was to organize a committee, and as far as I know, I don't know who has been appointed to that yet. I haven't, I'm sorry, I can't give you an update on that. But it appoints a committee of folks who will be able to control a privately funded scholarship pool. So we're not using any taxpayer money. We're asking for private donations to this fund, which will then Control down.
We have a backup. Battery dying. We need more funding for batteries.
All right, school funding, yay. So anyway, private funding for scholarships for folks who are qualified students who are here not because they committed a crime to come, but because they were brought along with their family. I'm proud that we have done that because I think it says something about our state's recognition of the value that we have for immigration, that we see that our state is enriched by people from many other places, and we're not organizing a party to take people away. What we're saying is we want to work with you. We enjoy our rich cultural diversity here. So it's a pretty cool thing as far as I'm concerned.
So the question again is, how can early childhood be part of the consolidation discussion?
That's a good question. The consolidation and efficiency panel we've set up to be representative of a lot of folks. And early childhood is certainly a part of the Joint Education Leadership Committee that I chair as a part of this P through 20 Council. So I think we try and involve early childhood in as much as we can. I went to a great lecture over the winter, and he's a Nobel Prize economist, and I can't remember his name. Thank you very much. Did this wonderful lecture about return on investment of public dollars in education. And it was this lovely chart that went down like that. And the return on investment in early childhood education is huge. It's the area where we can make an enormous difference. And I saw my end of the scale, graduate education, way over here. I was not making much of a difference. And the good news is I think a lot of people recognize that potential that's there with early childhood education. Early childhood education is part of the latest race to the top. We're hoping third time's a charm in the state of Illinois. We struck out or had 2 strikes previously, and we're hoping to get some of that funding here. But I think the answer is that there's a growing awareness that we need to include early childhood education in the education conversation more often, that we are going to benefit from that very much. All right.
What are the consequences of the continuing reduction in the state subsidy of higher education in general and at the University of Illinois in particular?
As someone who pays tuition to the University of Illinois, I can speak authoritatively on that. Our older daughter is a U of I student. I think the consequences of cutbacks to higher education funding are long-term and are serious for democracy, right? We have a society where we value everyone's participation, where we don't assign people to a certain strata based on where they were born or who their family is, and we hope to get the best out of every citizen. And the way we do that, to a great extent, is through higher education, and through higher education that's affordable. And sadly, the prices have continued to go up on higher education. As state funding goes down, the schools are turning to the only other source they can, and that's students. And so we're not going in a very positive direction right now, but that's also the reality of the state economy. I wish I could, announce that higher education will be fully funded. That would be a lovely thing to be able to say here, but the reality is that in this national economic situation, our state economy is such that we don't have that kind of money to be adding in to the higher education budget to get that to get a change in tuition prices, at least for now. But that's certainly the direction I would hope to go.
And this question concerns out-of-state colleges. How do we get our Illinois state four-year colleges to honor credits from other state colleges?
That's from Illinois state colleges, not out-of-state.
Oh, Illinois within Illinois.
Yeah.
How do we get
Western to northern.
Okay.
Okay, so transferring from one college to another credits, yeah.
It's a 300 at northern, but it's not recognized at Western as a 300.
Okay, so the whole question of who counts what in terms of credits. We have the Illinois Articulation Initiative that theoretically within fields of study is a vehicle for professors, teachers to gather and say, here's what we expect out of a basic course in American government. Here's what we expect out of a history course. And it works most effectively for the entry-level courses. It works least effectively for the 300-level course that you're talking about. So we have challenges there. That's an area where, as I mentioned before, we're ahead of a lot of other states because we have those topic-related panels of professors. It still winds up being, unfortunately, in some places, an institution-by-institution decision. So we have institutions that are close together often have a good relationship and have a good articulation system, but if you want to take your credit to somewhere farther away, you're kind of on your own. So I don't have a good answer for you except to say that that's something that we're gathering information on how we can do better, and we've certainly identified it with you as an area where we can do better.
Recent articles have been published that give questions the validity and use of placement tests at college. Many kids are placed in remedial courses to bring them up to college level, but they get discouraged and doesn't give them credit.
I think I have kind of covered that. and I think it's certainly a trend that more colleges are looking beyond those test scores and looking at a broader picture of what makes a good college student.
Okay. And I think that these two questions both involve charter schools, so I'm going to combine them and give you a chance to think it over. The first one is, since the research seems to demonstrate charter schools do not outperform the regular public school, can you explain why so many politicians want to support charters? And then another guest asked, how could charter schools be affected by the school consolidation process? So if you could address the charter school issues, that'd be great.
All right. Charter schools and consolidation specifically, we haven't lined up in our commission yet, but I will take advantage of this question and put that in the hopper for discussion. The question about charter schools is why do they seem like an easy answer for so many people? I think gets us back to what was the original intent of charter schools, which were often billed as a laboratory. And certainly the premise of the question is a valid one, that there are charter schools that are good and there are charter schools that are bad. I think we now have enough experience with charter schools to be able to say, let's take a look at what's going on in the good charter schools and see what we can adapt from them and apply to our neighborhood schools. That was one of the original purposes of charter schools, to give us a little bit more to select from in terms of what's working and to apply it and hopefully make that an advantage for everyone.
I believe, well, we may have more questions. We're going to have just a couple more, and that'll be it. Do you favor the European model, free university education to a limited number of students who qualify as strong scholars by a discerning testing system, and other students go to a vocational track?
Okay. I think we have kind of the best of that system already. We have great universities in our state. where very talented people can go start to finish and excel. And we have community colleges which are open admission, and students can go there to get a degree to transfer to a four-year school, or they can go there to get a certificate in any number of career fields. We were at Moraine Valley College earlier today and met a lot of students in the culinary program. And one of the nice things, I recommend this if anyone ever offers you to tour a culinary school, accept right away. Gosh, they give great snacks. So I think our higher education system, which is more open door, is something that feels more comfortable to me because we say everyone who wants to try to take advantage of higher education is welcome in the community college. Everyone, including some people that maybe other folks would have written off and would have said, you don't have potential to be a great scholar, they can go to a community college and give it a try. The idea of free higher education sounds absolutely delightful and absolutely impossible in terms of our current state budget. But you know, I'm an absolute fan of higher education. One of the reasons I enjoyed working at the university so much was we get to take classes there for free. What a treat! I took French one semester, where I was the old lady in the class. There was really one chapter where all the discussion and all the dialogues were about your room and your roommate, and I had to start off each sentence with, my roommate is my husband. So I'm a huge fan of higher education, of lifelong learning, and probably not so much of a fan of limiting that to a certain group of folks.
I think we're going to give you one more question and then wrap things up this evening. So, how can the state ensure that students in many of Chicago's neighborhood schools in poverty areas, which do not provide students and teachers with adequate resources, how do we ensure that they are provided with high quality and equitable school environments that will prepare them for success?
Yes, someone says that's a good question. Obviously, that's a very good question. How do we make sure that education, a high-quality education, is something that you get because you live in Illinois, not because you live in a particular zip code somewhere in Illinois? As someone from Southern Illinois, I see this as a very important question. I see this as something that ought to be uniting us more than it does, right? We have a lot of regionalism in the state, a lot of, wow, you must over there get all the money. But if all the folks who said, we are the educational have-nots, could join up, whether they're in Carbondale or Chicago, we'd have quite a coalition. So that's one of the things, a longer-term thing that I'm working on. I don't think that's going to come easily or soon, but I think the more we realize that we are citizens of a state, that we make progress together, that we can't just have one set of people with educational opportunities and another set that we say, well, you've got to make do. We're going to educate you on the cheap. I don't think that's a state that will do well for very long. So that's something that I'm committed to. And let me just, since that was the last question, wrap it up by saying, I'm terribly easy to get in touch with, right? I've got an office in Chicago, in the Thompson Center. I've got an office in Springfield in the Capitol, which is really cool. You should do a field trip there sometime. And I've also got an office in Carbondale in the Department of Transportation building, where if you come in the employee entrance, it says, please clean your shoes. So I've got a big diversity of offices, website, telephones, you name it, get in touch. Let's consider this the beginning of a conversation rather than the end. And thank you very much.
Before you sit down, please stay at the podium, and I want to invite our co-chairs who put this event together to come up, Ann Corder and Judy Bradeen. If you could come up, we're going to hand the microphone over to you. All right. Don't go anywhere. Lieutenant Governor, you're not off the stage yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's our custom to offer a small token of our appreciation for coming all the way up here. So thank you so much.
Thank
this
you
was
very
wonderful.
Much. Yes, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
I'll shake your hand.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This has just been a tremendous effort. I'd like to just have everybody that worked on this program please stand up. We've got, of course, Ann and Judy. We have Peggy Kell, Amy Little, Beverly Kiley, Sandra Sokol. Thank you for all your hard work. There, Peggy was out the door already. So if you just stand up so we can just give you a round of applause for working so hard on this program. Thank you for standing. We would welcome anyone thinking of becoming a new member to stop at our membership table out in the hall, and we hope we can see you at the panel discussion on October 27th. Thank you all very much for coming, and have a safe trip home.